Mrs. Green Apple, we are continuing our track by track listen through to the album 12, which is their first full length album, and we've got all the way through to the song Watashi. This is a 6-minute long song, which is, to be honest, something where I'm kind of intrigued to see where we go with this. We've had an album that is kicked off with so much energy. You know, it's been interesting. I will say that so far, I think it definitely feels like a first full-length album. It's an album where you can kind of hear them coming to terms with certain aspects of their sound that make more sense now, looking back. But definitely, each song has had its own identity thus far. And I'm kind of intrigued because over the last few songs from Public Hour and then down through Kikori Doke, that's a hard one to say, I feel like the energy's now starting to we could be working down towards maybe a ballad. I feel like it's kind of just slightly, the energy's coming down to a slightly more chilled place. So let's see what we get with Watashi. Again, no idea what to expect. There's no music video for this one, which means it's going to be a kind of an interesting surprise. Nothing to spoil the surprise, so to speak. So anyway, let's jump in. This is Watashi by Mrs. Green Apple. That says ballad to me. That's a lovely layering there. That's so pretty. Love the left-hand movement on the piano. It's interesting because it's a ballad and yet it's so full of things to hear. It's not lazy. Sudden stabbing back in, building up the tension. Ooh, so nice. It's just very fundamentally British. That little bit where he whispers at the end of the chorus there. Again, perfect. Nice personal touch. And allows you to punch back into the second verse like this. Just listen to how different the rhythm of the guitar and the piano are. So satisfying. It's It's definitely the definition of a song that kind of wraps you up in and just this wall of sound and manages to be very soothing at the same time. I was going to say, are we going to get a key change bridge? If we can get a key change bridge. Nice, I like that. That was nice to breaking up the rhythm a bit there. I did like that big build up there. That was a really nice way to end the bridge. That's such a nice way to play out. Yeah, just kind of one of those ones where it sounds so nice you can just let it ring. That guitar on the right hand side, that is a lovely touch. The little slow arpeggio. This is an example of a song that takes a well-established formula and just really delivers it in a way that explains why that formula is so well established. It delivers it in a way that is just so fundamentally satisfying. And you know, it's 6 minutes that fly by because like you get certain songs where they just manage to hit this sound where you could just say, even beyond the progression, it's like I could just listen to that for hours just because the sound, it's so satisfying and it just everything feels so beautifully layered. I mean, here there was obviously you had you built up from the verse to the chorus and your usual progressions, but the one thing that held true throughout was this sense that the sounds were compared to the last song, which ironically I criticized for having the opposite problem. All of the sounds were so perfectly picked. The tone of the guitar, the way it was kind of had that kind of distorted grit that kind of gave it urgency, but it still was clear and rang out in a beautiful kind of tone of way. The fact that the piano had this very sort of, for the best part, usually quite simple thing, but there was a lot of real feeling of thickness to the fact that you had like the left and right hand were quite close together and kind of like syncopating between them. The beat, very solid, very clear, had that kind of tangible, real-world drum kit feel that a lot of these early albums seem to exemplify. The vocal melody, again, he's always on point with that. The bass was thick. Everything about this tonally was great. Now, I would accept that if you were looking for a critique of this song, I would be 100% okay with anyone who said that it does veer into the side of being almost a bit cliche in how predictable it is. Now, I'm going to defend it against that criticism, but to entertain as we should do, like a fair way of looking at it from two angles, it is fair to say that this, for example, this song would never make a satisfying single just because of the fact that if you put this first and foremost as a single, the point of a single is not just to do a catchy song that you know is going to work, but also a song where you go, well, this is a song that will help you think of our band. It's like a way of advertising your band as a good single. It's not just a celebration for the fans, but it's also a way to bring in new fans. And I feel like if you put this song out as a single, then people would probably look at it and go, well, yeah, that could be anyone, though. It has certain qualities, but it's not identifiably a unique thing on its... This doesn't scream Mrs. Green Apple. But as I was saying before, this is why it makes a great album track. Because if you're listening to this song, you've already got 12. You're already invested, or you're watching this reaction to see if you should bite it off. But you're probably already invested in Mrs. Green Apple. So you're listening to this because of the fact that you're thinking to yourself, "I like this band. I want to hear more songs." And this is a very satisfying delivery of a well trodden formula. I would say the only point to me where I feel like it maybe risked being too formulaic is that I was thinking that I could see two angles on this. I didn't like the idea of having the breakdown at the beginning of the last chorus. That is such a stereotype of Japanese pop and rock music that works a lot of the time. But this was an example. The bridge was so good here at building things up, and just the way his voice comes in at the end of the bridge, and he's just singing with that power, and it's punching you up. And I'm just thinking, just launch from that energy and throw into a heroic final chorus and power it out. That just use that energy. But yeah, I felt that this did fall into the trap of going, oh, but choruses always have more impact when you start them with a breakdown. I was like, I don't know. I think it wasn't too bad, but I felt it was the stereotypical approach to take. But with all the criticisms that I'm really playing devil's advocate to think of potential negative ways of looking at this, because again, I can imagine a lot of people are going to listen to this and just say that's just a standard, cookie cutter ballad. I understand that, but for me, I have to say I think this worked because it's a sound that really placed Mrs. Green Apple's strengths. Beautiful, strong vocals. A real sense of layering. Again, I loved hearing the way that the guitar rhythm kept on changing, and the guitar line in this was fantastic. I thought the piano line was great, but the guitar line really interesting, the way it kept on changing between the verses, and then that last chorus, it was just just kind of playing on arpeggio over and over again, and it was like it just worked so perfectly. I felt like the guitar picked the perfect line in every little bit, and against the piano, which started off kind of lush, but then just settled into more of a rhythm setting kind of tone towards the end. Just everything had detail, progression. As I say, the layers of sound, the overall tone was the same throughout. It was a song that was mostly relying on a similar kind of timbre throughout. But I just felt like all of the little nuances kept on developing in the way that even if the song overall, macroscopically, doesn't scream, "Oh, this band's really unique," on the nuances and the details, it had that quality that makes Mrs. Green Apple special, which is that attention to detail. Nothing feels complacent. Everything feels like it's like playing off. Every instrument feels like it's playing off against another instrument. This was just very satisfying. I am definitely going to just kind of if I just need something chill, I'm going to pop this on again. I enjoyed this. I thought this was really cool, and I think it's a nice development from the way the album started, just from a pure album progression standpoint. Yes, obviously this marks a significant change from the slightly more upbeat or energetic songs before to a song that's definitely more ballad. But I felt like this was a ballad that still had enough power to almost be a power ballad. Still had a feeling where you could rock your head and sing along. So I feel like it didn't just completely just drop all the energy. It just continued to develop the energy of the album in a different direction. Anyway, there you go. Those are my thoughts. I thought this was awesome. Get in the comments, tell me what you think, and until I hopefully see you very soon for the next one of these. For now, ciao, ciao.